But President Akufo-Addo says he's unfazed by criticism of his handling of the banking sector crisis, which led to the collapse of 7 indigenous banks. Dozens of rural and microfinance institutions in the country were also affected, resulting in a loss of over 20 billion cedis. He is particularly unhappy the criticism is coming from persons he says supervise the rot in the system. Governor Dr. Ernest Addison also disclosed all depositors of the 7 collapsed banks have been settled. Elton Brobe was with the president.
President Akufo-Addo has been out and about today, and the first port of call was the central bank, that's the Bank of Ghana. The Bank of Ghana is particularly important because this bank, a year and a half ago, collapsed some 7 indigenous banks because according to the Bank of Ghana, they were found to be insolvent. Now, President Akufo-Addo at a meeting with the leadership of the central bank had 2 questions. One, what the Bank of Ghana is doing to ensure that there is not a repeat of the crisis in the banking sector that led to the collapse of the 7 indigenous banks. And secondly, the status of payment to depositors of the banks that went under. Now, President Akufo-Addo was particularly excited about the fact that the central bank and the finance ministry have been working together. And the reason, according to him, is a revitalization of the Ghanaian economy after the impact of the coronavirus pandemic.
It's going to be difficult to write the history of your governorship without talking about the banking sector issues. The success of the reforms will define a lot your period here as governor. Government has found it necessary to give the bank maximum support because it became obvious to us on coming into office that if the analysis that had been made about the fragility of the financial sector that we had inherited, if we were not prepared to back up that analysis concretely, God knows what would have happened to our country. And the manner in which the reforms have been carried out, I know there's a lot of controversy. There are many of the people who are responsible for the crisis in the first place have found it convenient to be able to point accusing fingers at those of us who have tried to clean up the mess. But that is the way of things.
In responding to the questions put before him by the president, one relating to what the central bank is doing to ensure that there is not a repeat of the crisis and the status of the payment, Dr. Ernest Addison, who is a governor of the Bank of Ghana, said that the bank has rolled out 3 issues to ensure there is some sanity within the banking sector. And first is a corporate governance directive, as well as the data misreporting, which, according to him, was an issue when he took over as governor of the central bank. And thirdly is the capital verification. When banks says that they have this amount of money in their deposit, they should be able to back that with the evidence. And according to him, they are ensuring that with these directives, the country will not slip back into the crisis that led to the collapse of the 7 indigenous banks.
The second one also has to do with misreporting of data. There was a lot of falsification of data by the financial institutions to the central bank. So we have brought in new technology which would allow us to get the data directly from the sources so that no intervening human interventions would be in there to distort the data that the central bank receives. The third one has to do with the capital verification process, because a lot of the banks reported that they had capital when in fact they didn't have any capital at all. So we have reviewed the entire, capital verification process of the bank, and it's almost impossible now for us to have a bank that doesn't have any capital and yet is allowed to operate. And we think that, of course, in addition to that, we have the capacity building for the staff of the banking supervision department. We've had a lot of training programs with the IMF.
But more importantly, he announced that the central bank has so far paid 100% of depositors of the 7 banks that went under, and 95% of monies owed depositors with some of the rural banks that also went under. Regarding the issues with the GN Bank owned by Dr. Indum, the governor of the central bank indicated that they had issues with some of the facts that they presented, but they've resolved those issues, and hopefully this week and next week will start payment of depositors that had money with the GN Bank. From the Jubilee House, Elton Brobe reporting for Joy News.